Tim, your thoughts about the role that Penn State's on right now?
Well, as I was telling you guys before we hit record, one of our other Black Shoe Diaries colleagues, our Slack channel, just a few short weeks ago, was talking about how recruiting seemed to have slowed slowed down, and we had a bunch of guys who we seemed to be in the mix for, but no one was really popping. And then we saw instances where there's one recruit, Rodney Gallagher, number 2 recruit in Pennsylvania, according to 24/7 Sports, 4-star kid, Pennsylvania, and I guess his mom is a Penn State alum, and he ends up going to West Virginia. West Virginia, to their credit, made him a real sweetheart NIL deal, from my understanding, like well into 6 figures. And at the time, there's talk about Penn State's behind the 8 ball, and there's concerns that if they don't get their act together, they're going to risk becoming like a second-tier program, being some kind of mid-level Big Ten program, and letting Michigan and even Michigan State, who I should say Michigan State especially has really embraced the whole NIL thing and has landed some big fish recruiting-wise as a result. They might otherwise wouldn't have landed, but to risk those teams clearly passing Penn State and being at best like a distant fourth, was a concern. But it seems like from what I've read from people in the know in the last few weeks, the people who are responsible for getting that NIL money flowing at Penn State they're all on the same page. They're all pulling the same direction now. And while I don't think that's everything, it sure has to count for something in this day and age. Now, as Marty said before, what really made a difference, though, was that big recruiting weekend last weekend when Penn State hosted a ton of visitors, including some guys that they're squarely in the hunt for. One name, Tariq Robinson, 4-star defensive end. He's a guy who's long Penn State long thought to have been in the lead for him, but in recent times, Miami had been nipping hard at his heels, and Virginia Tech was also hanging around too. So to get him back on campus, and apparently from what I've read, I'm sure from Marty's read too and heard, he really hit it off with defensive coordinator Manny Diaz, and it seems to have essentially sealed the deal. He set his commitment date for July 5th, and by all means, all the crystal balls now are pointing towards Tariq Robinson choosing Penn State. The other big name, most defensive guy, is linebacker Tony Rojas. And this is a guy who, just like Robinson, he had long been favoring Penn State. Now, this is a kid out of Fairfax, Virginia, which, the DC metro area is a very prime recruiting territory for James Franklin and company. And so getting this kid would be highly important, of course, to keeping that DMV recruiting strong. So they for a long time, they were leaders for him. But then here comes Georgia, mighty Georgia, not, making their pitch to him. And he made a visit down there before the last weekend. And by all accounts, it sounded like Georgia was making up some serious ground and, getting him to at least think a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to say a flip was imminent, but like, not saying that it was imminent that Georgia was going to overtake Penn State as his leader, but they were certainly a threat. And so they got him, he got back on campus and again, hit it off with Manny and the rest of the coaching staff. And that seems to have also sealed the deal. He set I forget what date, maybe you know, Marty, but he set a commitment date as well for sometime in early mid-July. And it sounds like, it sounds like he'd canceled what was going to be another visit to Georgia, which is huge. And so it sounds like they staved off the Bulldogs' late surge there and they're expected to win his commitment next month. I liken it actually to what happened a year ago with Denai Dennis Sutton. Same situation. He was a kid who had long been thought to have had Penn State as his leader. And then, Georgia really made him think long and hard about it. Took a visit down there, loved the place. But in the end, just like of Rojas, that's just like it was the relationships, the coaching staff, the long-standing relationships that won out for him.